Okay, good morning, everybody. This is Frank Melville. I'm the president here at PhoneSuite, and we are doing a little webinar today on an introduction of the new PhoneSuite Series2 V.IP or VIP platform. And the V.IP indicates that it's powered by our Voiceware product, so Voiceware integrated platform. And we'll get into that a little bit here. But thank you, everybody, for coming. There was a little confusion as to the starting time of this. So we may seem a little bit unprepared today, but I think things will go pretty smoothly here. A little bit about me. I'm Frank Melville. I'm the president here at PhoneSuite, and I grew up in the hotel industry and never got very far away from it, despite the fact that I was tired of plunging toilets and knew I was not going to be a hotelier for a career. Became an engineer and have been involved in hotel technology ever since. Do some speaking at National Association meetings and I'm often quoted in technology publication articles. A little bit about PhoneSuite for those of you who don't know. We've been a hospitality phone system provider since 1998, about 15 years. Company's been in business since '88, so 25 years as a technology provider in the telecommunications industry. And we now consider ourselves a hotel industry company that makes technology. We just shipped our system number 4,000. Meaning 4,000 plus hotels have a PhoneSuite installed or have had a PhoneSuite installed since our initiation 15 years ago. And we are now preferred or endorsed or at least approved by most and soon to be all major brands. And there are just a couple of brands that don't endorse or approve us yet. Near the top of the food chain, if you will, Marriott, to name the last one that is not allowing us or not approving us, and we're in talks with them to get that changed. So we are definitely hospitality focused. We make traditional TDM PBX systems, but we also have a modern VoIP-based system that is an all software in a server, complete hotel system, and of course everything in between, and that's what we're here to talk about a little bit today, our next product. A little bit about the early products. PhoneSuite 64 was an all TDM analog-based system that basically wrapped everything you needed in a hotel into the package for telecommunications. So the voicemail was in there, call accounting is in there, including the interface for posting the phone calls to the guest bill, automated attendant. Everything that you used to have to add on to a phone system was built into the PhoneSuite 64. It was for mom and pop hotels. It didn't have everything a franchise hotel needed, and we were quite successful with that in small hotels. But the market encouraged us to produce a bigger, better product, so we came out with a PhoneSuite 112E, or once called the 495 because it goes up to 495 stations. It's basically an expanded PhoneSuite 64 designed for the chain hotels, mid-scale, with or without food and beverage properties. The full PMS interface was in there for check-in, check-out, room status, etc. And we added some feature phones for the administrative offices that the PhoneSuite 64 did not have. And finally, we added on the ability to have a touchscreen computer instead of that hardware console you see above it for controlling the operator handling of calls and setting wake-up calls and things like that. Just a few years ago, we started getting into the voice over IP realm because obviously the chains and the hotels were saying this is where we all needed to go, and we came out with our Voiceware product. Now, Voiceware is software. When you think Voiceware, don't think a piece of hardware, because Voiceware really is the software that is providing all of the hospitality PBX features. So it's got the guest module in there, the voicemail module in there, the PMS interface module in there. It includes a language module, IVRs. It's just everything a hotel, including very high-end hotels, could possibly want for an IP PBX in that software. And it's used to control just about anything. So number one, it can run anywhere. It can run in the cloud. It can run right there on the property. It can run in some PhoneSuite gear. And it will run anything. It can run SIP phones. It can drive SIP trunks. It can drive analog phones. It can drive analog trunks. It can even drive digital T1PRI trunks. And you can mix and match. So you don't have to use all SIP phones or have to use all analog phones. And the last thing here is that we designed it so that it can control our franchise TDM product of PhoneSuite 112E. So it can be a controller for the PhoneSuite 112E. And that is where we stand today. And before I go into the Series 2, I want to show you something a little bit about the big push today at chains. This is a diagram that I don't expect anyone out there to fully understand, and we're not going to go through it in detail, so don't worry about that. But it just gives you an idea. This is something we received. This is put together by us, but it's mimicking something we received from one of the very large, well-known worldwide chains that has thousands of hotels worldwide, that indicates the way they see the future of hotel telephony going. And what they're doing is a big hosted IP PBX driving the hotel's communications needs, but from the cloud using SIP trunking and the PBX in the cloud. They have a separate property level LAN for the voice, so they create a separate LAN to do the voice part of it, and they use these FXS gateways, they're called, for driving the analog guest room phones, because they have admitted recently, and it didn't start out this way, but they have admitted that SIP guest room phones just aren't ready yet in terms of price and provisioning. They're a little bit difficult to configure and get set into the rooms. So we're not seeing as many of those going in. They need the analog guest room phones, so the FXS gateway does that. They want a local failover controller. So if the internet goes down, they want something here that takes over and at least provides some PBX features at the property level in case they lose this connection here to the internet. And then they also need a PMS interface controller, because this PBX up here isn't talking to the PMS, and most PMSs are still using serial interfaces, so you need right here this interface controller. And finally, they want some analog ports using an FXO gateway, it's called in the VoIP world, to provide some failover trunking in case they lose the SIP trunks, again, as a failover, and to provide some direct 911 in case they want to use trunks that can't be registered as 911. So that aside is not meant purely as an aside. I'm showing this diagram because when we're thinking about our next product, we need to keep this in mind as well. And now Voiceware can go up here in the cloud or into this failover device here and works perfectly in this configuration, Voiceware all by itself. And that's wonderful, wonderful that we can do that, because we can solve this drive by the big chains to do this fully hosted with Voiceware. But in a lot of ways, it's not ideal. Obviously, you've got all this failover stuff in place here. Why do you have all that if just putting it on premise gets all that same thing done? And you can forget about worrying about the host in the cloud. Having to add on a new device just so you can talk to the PMS when it was built into the PBX before, it all seems kind of crazy. But we'll look at this again in a minute after we introduce the PhoneSuite Series 2. PhoneSuite Series 2 is our next generation PBX. And in figuring out what we're going to put in here, we started thinking, okay, does it need to be VoIP-based or should it be TDM-based? Because we're still selling mostly TDM PBXs. Many more TDM PBXs than VoIP are still being installed today. Does it need to be SIP or T1 PRI or analog trunks? Well, what should we do there? What about SIP or analog stations? Do we want to force SIP stations in the rooms? I'm not sure about that. And does it need to be a proprietary or open standard admin phones? That's a big topic of discussion where most PBX providers still today provide only, at the administrative level, only proprietary phones. And there's these new open SIP standards. Why not use those? And then finally, what about those chain requirements and the direction the chains are going? So all those were coming into play when we decided to design the PhoneSuite Series 2. And here it is unveiled. Wow, it just looks like a box. It looks like any old other TDM PBX, but here it is, and let's take a look at this box. We'll look at the hardware here first. First of all, it's a nice cabinet that rack mounts. It's designed for a 7U of rack space and plenty of card slots in here to do analog interfaces. But the first two card slots get the processors, and here's where the magic of the Series 2 V.IP comes in. We've got two processors here. One is a Voiceware processor that does complete VoIP system on a card in the Series 2, and then the second is the TDM side or the analog side processor. And these two work together as one unit so that the Series 2 can be both a VoIP and SIP-based system and a TDM system. The rest of the card slots take analog station and trunk cards, and we'll get into those a little bit in the feature list. But think of them as those gateways in the hosted PBX solution. They're each 24 ports per card, surface mount technology, very sturdy, very nice solution. And the system is designed with these cable guides for those of you who are technicians, and this tray space here where the cables can go underneath the floor of the cabinet but above the base of the cabinet with a little tray slot here to bring the tails out the end. And that's true for the trunk ports and the station ports. And then a nice little cover and ears so that you can rack mount the system. That is a look at the physical part of the PhoneSuite Series 2, or a brief look at it. But before we go on and look at the feature list, I do want to go back to this graphic of the big hosted PBX push and want to indicate something here, that if you look at all of these features, all of the things that these hotel chains are requiring, well, this FXO gateway for backup trunks in case you lose your internet SIP trunking, this PMS interface device to convert the IP communications into serial communications so that the PMS interface still works for phone call billing and for check-in, check-out, and room status. The big array of FXS gateways all stacked up here in a rack somewhere, each with its own power supply. And finally, the failover controller that these chains are requiring, all wrapped up into one package, is the PhoneSuite Series 2. And that's something important to note here for those of you who are installers and those of you who are thinking about what the next PBX you want to put in your hotel should be. All of this stuff, you wrap it all together into one package, and you've got a PhoneSuite Series 2. All right, so let me summarize here. I promise to keep these things short, so I'm trying to get done in 15 minutes or less. Let me summarize the hardware. It's got a Voiceware controller card built into the cabinet so that we can still do SIP, or excuse me, so that we can do the SIP and voice over IP communications with trunking and SIP stations and et cetera. It's got also a TDM processor card right next to it, so we can run the analog side of the equation. Now, on that processor card, we've got 2 analog trunks. So you've got your failover trunk ports, 2 failover trunk ports included for free in this platform. Each station card has 24 ports of analog stations on it. Each trunk card with caller ID has 12 caller ID ports on it. Or you can do a single span T1 PRI card as well. All of those cards look like old PBX cards, but think of them as gateways that aren't in a cabinet. They're designed to go in this large Series 2 cabinet. Some of the things that this allows for us in terms of features is by combining the analog, both SIP and VoIP, you get a maximum of flexibility if you wish. In other words, you can do as much or as little SIP as you want, and you can do as much or as little analog and digital trunks as you want. The voice over IP core means you are future-proofed. It's reconfigurable. If you wanted to start to use SIP phones in the room after your analog phones start to die, guess what? You don't have to buy anything additional other than those SIP phones. As long as the cabling is in place, the voice over IP platform built into the Series 2 can handle that. Up to 240 station ports and 26 analog trunks per cabinet. You can use T1 or PRI ports, replacing 12 of those analog trunks for a maximum of 14 analog trunks and a T1 PRI circuit. But the very cool thing is that these are stackable, so you can hit any size hotel. If each PhoneSuite Series 2 V.IP cabinet can handle 240 station ports, then 2 of them can do 480, 3 of them 720, and so on. And these are rack mountable, so you can stack them up. And because you do a separate cabinet for each 240 station ports, you can distribute the cabinets as nodes around the hotel. So if you have, say, a 2-tower hotel with 200 rooms in each tower, you can put a PhoneSuite Series 2 VIP cabinet into each tower. They're linked together through Ethernet, through the LAN, and you've got one integrated working system. And that obviously expands on past 2. And then the biggest thing here that differentiates the PhoneSuite Series 2 from the racks of gateways that the chains are all pointing to as the new hosted solution is the analog failover mode. And this is the thing I want to harp on the most here, because this is what mostly differentiates it. Yes, it's all in one cabinet, and it does look like a traditional PBX, but it is not. It is an IP-based gateway array that has, because it's all in one box, a great analog failover mode. And what do I mean by that? You can lose not just the internet, but you can actually lose your LAN. Your router can go down, or switches can go down. You can completely lose the LAN, and every analog port within the Series 2 VIP can continue to operate as though it's a little standalone PBX. Now, it doesn't operate that normally. It notices that the internet or the LAN are gone and goes into this mode where it becomes a simple backup PBX. Rooms can still make 911 calls or dial 0. You need to have one analog phone at the front desk, and all of the analog trunks are still in play as well. So it's a little mini PBX in failover mode when and if the internet or LAN goes down. I think that's one of the biggest features of this system. So that is our quick look at the introduction of the PhoneSuite Series 2. I'm going to take some questions now. You can also call any of us on our sales team. We're at 800-245-9933, or you can email our sales team at simply sales@phonesuite.com. And right now I'm going to take questions if there are any, and let's see what we've got here. Okay, what is the difference between the traditional gateways and the station cards in the Series 2? Think of the station card in the Series 2 as a simple 24-port FXS gateway, but it's not in a box already. If you were to open up a 24-port gateway and look at the card, it would look at the printed circuit board that's inside of there. It would look very much like a Series 2 station card with a surface mount chips and then a Amphenol connector to bring the ports out. Any other questions? Is the product available now? That's a great question. I'm glad this was asked. Okay, we have been in beta with the Series 2, and our typical beta goes for about 3 to 6 months, and then as the problems, which inevitably occur during a beta test, as the problems surface and are resolved, the design changes and then it solidifies. And toward the end of the beta, the solidified design is sent off to manufacturing, and there's about a 3-month lead time before the product is available. With the Series 2, we've just been as happy as can be because all of our betas have gone in and just worked flawlessly. And this is the first time this has happened to us. I'm not trying to pat ourselves on the back too much, but we've already done the voice over IP side with Voiceware, and that's been out there, and it's got 2 years in the field as Voiceware, and actually 4 years in the field if you include its first iteration. And then the TDM hardware we've been doing forever, so we really know that. And these things were just working so smoothly that the beta actually took less time than we wanted to, but we did still have the 3-month delay between the end of the beta about 6 weeks ago and the time that the product will be readily available. So we are saying early Q1, might be available as late as December, next month and a half away, but don't count on that for those of you who are resellers. It'll be definitely available January of 2014. Okay, well, if you have other questions, feel free to call us again or email us. Love to talk to you about the product. I'm very excited about what it can do for us. We are delighted with not just the success of the beta, but as a result of the beta testing, those dealers that we partnered with to do the beta testing are not scrambling, but they're screaming at us to get them the product because it's just perfect for what their customers need today. And we think it's going to be a very big success. Thank you all for coming.